Our next performer, we are so glad to welcome her back, Victoria Calamito with Tomorrow.
If COVID had happened even a few years earlier, I think I'd be dead. I know that sounds hyperbolic, but bear with me. You see, I went through a period of suicidality, and in that time, I felt like I was unworthy and incapable. Had I not survived those days, COVID might have sunk my ship. My COVID journey began probably as it did for most of you. One day in late February, my desk mate, Barbara, turns to me and goes, "There's a case in New Rochelle." "Just one?" I ask. "Yeah, no, they found more people testing positive in his apartment building, and he was riding the Metro North the day before." That is when the cold, sinking feeling of dread hits me. This thing, it's going to spread. See, I had been through Ebola and Zika virus, swine flu, any number of terrible things, all of which had drifted out to sea at the end of the news cycle, and at first, I had no reason to think that this would be any different. But in those cases, science had led the charge. Experts gave their advice, and it was taken. Now the adults have left the room. I recognize this moment. It's the moment in the disaster movie when you look around and realize no one is coming to help you. I take my lunch in the cafeteria that afternoon. There are only 2 offices in our office park, but the other has closed. I sit and eat my sandwich in total silence. On a Friday in early March, my daughter's school closes. We get an email, words like "an abundance of caution" and "until further notice." I ask my boss, Kyle, if it's okay to work from home that Friday, and he says, sure, no problem. He is good people. By Monday, the office is closed anyway. We're all working remotely from now on. To think, just a couple of months before this, we'd spent a good chunk of our monthly management meeting arguing with the upper echelons of the company about whether or not Ugg boots were considered office-appropriate attire, and now we're all working from home in our pajamas. Perspective. It is at this moment that I come to the realization that I am thoroughly lacking the skills required to impart knowledge to my then 6-year-old daughter in a way that is understandable and accessible. I don't know how to do this. But luckily, my mother is a retired music teacher. She speaks this particular language with deft and ease. I send her the lesson plans every morning, and in the afternoon, she teaches Rosaria on FaceTime. My mother and my daughter relish this extra time together. And thanks to my mother's efforts, my daughter's education continues to soar, and I am able to continue working uninterrupted full-time. I know that not all mothers and children are afforded this luxury, and I'm so grateful. Thank you, Mom. The children have handled this in such a wonderful way. It is humbling and awe-inspiring. They're so much better at this than some of their adult counterparts. "We have to wear a mask to the store," I say to her. She shrugs. "Okay, we have to keep each other safe." It's that easy. The first exposure comes in April. My ex-husband has lied to me. He tells me his girlfriend is working from home, so visitation can continue as normal. It isn't until after she returns from her midweek visit that he has to confess the truth. Yes, his girlfriend has applied for unemployment, but things are so uncertain and it didn't seem like a big deal, so she continued to go to work covertly and get a paycheck under the table. But now 4 of her coworkers have tested positive. 1 is on a ventilator. He is sobbing, and he is sorry, and I have asthma, and so far we know nothing about this disease except that it is killing people left and right. Just the week before, one of his former classmates from Western Connecticut State University had died. COVID took this man from his wife and 2 children. He had been unable to communicate with them in his last days, and they found the goodbye note he wrote them on his cell phone after he already died. So with this in mind, the night before I'm due to get tested, I sit down and I write all of my friends and family goodbye notes, 1 to each of them. I am so grateful for all of the yesterdays that I have spent with these people, and I pour out my love and gratitude onto these sheets of notebook paper as if my life depends on it. I am forced to sit with my memories, and I find so much good there as I write things over and over again like, thank you, I love you, you saved my life, you made living so wonderful. And in this moment, I cannot believe there was ever a time I considered suicide. The next day, I put my baby in the back seat of the car and we drive to the hospital to get tested. They've set up a makeshift testing center in the parking garage. The nurses are all wearing hazmat suits. It is otherworldly. I roll down my window, they swab my nose, and I drive off to wait the 3 to 5 days for an answer, and I yell out my window, "You are heroes," and I hope they hear me. The test comes back negative, and I exhale. My ex-husband and I have many long conversations about honesty and transparency and why that is so important, especially right now. There are many tears shed and lots of anger to sort through, but we are better parents on the other side of this experience. Birthdays and holidays come and go. We have Zoom parties for my daughter's favorite stuffed animals, just so we have an excuse to see each other. I bake cookies and make tiny little hats for all of her dolls. At this point, we have logged hours and hours of board games, Barbie dolls, and kitchen dance parties. She's learning how to samba. I'm hoping that these are the things that stick in her memory. My grandparents are in their 80s, they live in Florida, and they do not know how to use a computer. We send my grandmother a laptop for her birthday, fully loaded with everything she will need to Zoom with us. All of her passwords are logged and saved one by one, and she still can't figure it out. My brother-in-law, a tech wizard, remote controls her computer. And when her face flashes up onto the screen, my soul ignites. I call her every week, but it is not the same. She and Grandpa would usually come home a couple of times a year to visit, but they can't now. You survived the war in Sicily, I say to her. You've been through so much worse than this. There is nothing worse than being so far from you, she says through her tears. Almost 2 years have passed now since I last held her, and I feel the passing of time so acutely. Our numbered days go one after the other right before my eyes, and it gnaws at me. Her love stretches across the 1,000+ miles that separate us. It is so palpable, and that is what this experience has taught me. Love is stronger than this thing, always has been, and always will be. We end each phone call as we ever have. I love you, my angel, she says to me through her fading Sicilian accent. I love you more, I reply on a grin. Yeah, sure, tomorrow, she says. We laugh. She adds, stay safe, stay healthy, and tomorrow will come. Per usual, she is right, because she and Grandpa are getting the second dose of their vaccine next week, and they are coming home. Yes! Yes! My yesterdays were beautiful, and tomorrow is coming. Thank you.